Hello everyone, today I will tell you about the film The Outlaws. Enjoy watching. Before watching, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. I'm trying to develop this channel, and your support is the only thing I have. There is a lively trade going on in the streets of the Garabong Quarter. Two locals have a disagreement and grab knives. The police are standing in the middle of the crowd and doing nothing. Without looking up from their phone conversation, both are disarmed by a big guy in a suit. This is Ma Sak-do, and he is a policeman. Someone in the pool room stabbed a criminal who is a member of the Chinese gang Yad. Ma Sak-do came to talk to these guys. They refuse to put their weapons away, and the most insolent one gets hit in the face by the big guy. He does not want to see a gang war in his area. The leader of Yad tells Sak-do who stabbed his man. The attacker is a member of the Chinese gang issue. He tried to hide behind the backs of other bandits, but they were scattered like children. A short chase ended in a knockdown, and having pulled out a knife, the criminal went into a knockout. Sak-do almost killed him with his slap. A car pulled up to some deserted garbage dump. Three thugs brought a beaten debtor here in the trunk. They are going to beat the dead out of him with a sledgehammer. Sak-do wants to find out why the detainee stabbed the man, but he won't talk. And then the policeman asks him to put on a motorcycle helmet and go to the truth room. Having hidden from the surveillance camera, he stunned him with his fists. Then Sak-do goes with his partner to the mahjong room. The guard didn't understand who he was dealing with. His boss, the leader of the gang from Suzhou, tried to hide under the table and then began to deny his involvement in the incident in the billiard room. Punishment follows for this. Sak-do grabbed him by the balls with an iron grip. The wise Sak-do brings the two leaders together and orders them to make peace and live in peace from now on. And he even takes a commemorative photo. The snake was called to solve an issue. His man was being beaten by three guys. He got away with a broken hand from a sledgehammer. Three Chinese call themselves debt collectors. They don't care who they beat debts out of. 30 million won in 3 months turned into 200. The snake spat and smeared the debt collector's jacket. In a few seconds, he was stabbed a dozen times. The boss, Johnchenko, orders to cut off his arms and legs, and then rips open the debtor. Meanwhile, Sak-do meets with the leader of the Korean gang, Hwang. He is interested in how the incident in the billiard room was resolved, and the cop counts out money from his wallet. Sak-do refused to drink for a long time, but when he was offered girls for company, he could not resist. At the same time, the debt collectors came to the karaoke bar. The policeman has to quickly come to his senses. Something happened. In another blood-spattered room, they cut off the manager's arm. The manager explains how it all happened. One of the workers was hit and tried to calm the customers down, but the manager had to fight her off. He insults the Chinese and hits the bald man on the head. John-cheng calls the bandits back and apologizes to the manager, but he continues to call them names. Chong immediately hits him on the head with a bottle and orders Baldy to deal with him. He grabs a hatchet and starts chopping. Sak-do tells Hwan not to interfere, but the boss immediately gives the order to find out about the three. The deputy of the slain snake, Sang-woo, gives Jan-cheng part of the debt. He lectures him on how to run a business. And if someone gets in the way, he needs to chop off their limbs. Apparently, Issue's gang will be such an obstacle for them. Not only the trio, but also Sak-do were caught on the karaoke bar's CCTV camera, for which the boss scolds him. On the street, the big guy asks Django about the newcomers and makes him pay for lunch for all the police officers. From informants, Sak-do learns that the thugs stabbed the snake and took his gang. He soon becomes convinced of this when he finds several parts of the former leader folded into a bag. Now he needs to find the rest. The missing meat with the head was found in a suitcase on a departing garbage truck. The trio came to the gaming hall, which is managed by Jang, and made a mess there. They demand that the boss be brought to them. Leaving the people on the street, Jang went into the establishment to talk one-on-one. John-cheng gnaws on sunflower seeds and tells Jang that he will leave the establishment with mahjong to him and will take the slot machines. In a few minutes, all his people on the street were slaughtered, and he could only silently agree. He has never met such thugs in his life. Sak-do needs to give money to his subordinates, and he even swindles his boss out of finances for them. Sang-woo tries to persuade the restaurant owner to pay the gang 1,000,000 won a month, but he is not convincing. Unlike the bald scumbag, who simply nails his hand to the bar with a knife. The barmaid is Sang-woo's wife, but John-cheng liked her, and so that he would not rape her, she agreed to give herself to him voluntarily. Something became known about the Chinese thugs. Their group is called Black Dragon, and they have a habit of cutting off the limbs of anyone who does not pay them or repay their debts. To find out the details, they need someone from the Poison Gang. They can be found by their tattoos. And one such guy just walked into the sauna locker room, and the cops talked to him. When the police were eating ramen, 3 Chinese guys walked into the cafe. The cops guessed that they were their clients. Jianqing sensed something was wrong and kind of went to the toilet. The youngest cop followed him. Another approached the gang. The third blocked the exit. The leader splashed boiling oil on the guy's face. Taking advantage of the confusion, the bandits escaped. Sang-woo beat his wife for cheating. She accuses him of not protecting her. A neighbor knocks on their door and complains about the noise. But in fact, it turned out to be the people of the Korean boss Hwang. Sang-woo is drowned in order to extract information about the Chinese. He claims that he does not know where they are now. And at the same time, he asks for a chance to help them take down the scumbags. The police visit the wounded guy in the hospital and give him and his fiancée money. It was already difficult for him, but after this incident, he decided to leave the case back to intelligence, where it is calmer. Sak-do returned to the cafe for a drink, where the boy treats his abrasion. In response, the man offers him a glass of soju. A car crashed into the Black Dragon's casino, followed by the guys, and wreaked havoc. It was Issue's gang. The next day, the manager was finished off by Baldy. He and his accomplice were waylaid in an alley, but Django's plans to take revenge on them were thwarted by the police, who were also watching the dragons. During the scuffle, the accomplice managed to escape, but Baldy fell into Sak-do's monstrous grip and was strangled. Baldy is beaten and interrogated through an interpreter. He demands a lawyer. The camera is covered with a box, and the interpreter is escorted out. After the conversation, it turns out that the Chinese speaks Korean quite well. After a powerful blow to the body, so as not to let it slip, the bald man almost bites off his tongue. Django celebrates his mother's 60th birthday. An uninvited guest shows up at the banquet with a fire extinguisher and fills the entire room with smoke. The guests run out, and Jianqing shows up to the party with a hatchet and puts it to use. Having cut down the bandits, he grappled with the leader. During the fight, he ended up on top and plunged his knife into Django. The cops saw footage of the massacre on the news. The boss is unhappy, working on the case. Sak-do stands up for his guys. They are both called to their superiors. The captain of the homicide department is already waiting for them there. He tells them about Jianqing, one of the most dangerous criminals in China. When the boss of his old gang was imprisoned, he made his way to Korea. Now the case is being handed over to the homicide department, but Sak-do does not want this and makes up that they have prepared a cool operation. According to him, there will be at least 25 arrests. The captains of the departments quarreled. Businessman Kwok hires Jianqing for $500,000 to deal with the raiders who seized his property. The bandit agrees, but only for $1 million, and he needs to deal with the Korean Hwang. It was his administrator who he and his friends cut off the hand of. While they were negotiating, Sang-woo called Hwang himself. His gang flew into the restaurant. Jianqing escaped right through the second-floor window. His accomplice was wounded in the side. Sang-woo decided to do everything himself and attacked the Chinese with a knife, but was stabbed to death with it. The big guy does not let Sak-do go to Hwang, and for his insolence was sent to take a nap on the floor. For his behavior in the restaurant, the cop demands that the boss send 3 of his own to confess. One of them will sit down for the attack and hands over a bulletproof vest so that the Korean will not be stabbed. Jianqing beats up the barmaid and asks her who gave the order to her husband. The woman tells about the visit of Hwang's people. The police gathered local merchants and asked them to help them catch all the members of the Black Dragon, collect information for them, and photograph the bandits. But they are too intimidated and refuse. Then the teenager takes the floor and calls on the Chinese to finally change their lives and stop being afraid. Every day, someone is being stabbed on their streets, and if the dragons are left alone, there will be more and more victims. And the traders do a great job, photographing the criminals, telling about their routes and habits. They demand more and more money every day. It was calculated that the organization includes 26 people. Sak-do plans to arrest them all in one day so that no one has time to escape. The young man came to tell him that the Chinese police are coming in a few days, and they will still have to hand over the case to the homicide department. And Jianqing will be deported. In the morning, they are already taking Bald. Sak-do takes him aside and offers to make a deal. If he is also taken to China, he will face life in prison. And if he cooperates, he will serve time in Korea and get out. Bald thought about it, but he made a different deal. It turned out that the cops who took him were drug dealers. But they had problems with the dealers, and then Bald offered to introduce them to the right people. They let him go right on the street. But in fact, they were fake cops, or rather Sakdo's informants, whom we had already seen before. Bald tells his story of liberation, but Zanchenko does not believe him and asks his accomplice to give him an axe. However, after trying the drug, he still changes his mind and goes for a deal. The only thing is that the batch is very large, and the boss must be present at the meeting. The fake cops agreed to meet in a nightclub. The police began arresting small-time bandits. Zanchenko and his guys are moving along the street. The police are already ready to receive them. But only part of the gang led by Bald came to the actors. The cops immediately arrested them. But Zanchenko used the services to visit a karaoke bar in Hwan. A brutal meat grinder began in the corridor. The Korean tries to save his escape. Zanchenko personally pursues him. The hit car Hwan almost hobbled to the police building, but Zanchenko catches up with him. A bulletproof vest saves him from a knife. Then he grabs his hands by the blade. The police came running to the screams. The young man calls Sakdo and says in which area the leader is now. He himself followed the Chinese, but ended up right in front of his car. The accompanying guy helped Sakdo, who arrived in time. Zanchenko managed to escape and hid in a cafe, the main guy with his grandfather. Zanchenko calls the businessman, lies that he killed Hwan, and demands that he give him money in cash. At that moment, he sees the photos of his gangs taken by the boy. The kid couldn't get through to the cop, but he was just passing by a cafe where he found the already cut-up grandfather and then the wounded guy. He came to his place and told the big guy that Zhancheng was planning to go to China. The Chinese guy gets a fake card with some, in fact, no one was going to pay him, and gets himself ready in the airport toilet. He went there with Sakdo. He desperately pounces on the cop, but nothing can stop him from doing the big guy. He flies all over the toilet and breaks everything that can be broken. Zanchenko fights back with a mop, but the cop just breaks it. Still, Davu Koryets hits the Korean in the face a couple of times. He grabs a shard of mirror and inflicts several wounds on him. For this, Sakdo broke his arm, chained him to a urinal, and finally knocked him out. The bandits are taken to the police station one by one. The boss respects him in front of the journalists and acknowledges all the merits before himself. The young man returned to the department. The operation resulted in the arrest of 30 gangsters. This is where the film ends.